All right. Here we go. Cue up the Benny. All right. Hey, everybody. Where did I put my drink? Here it is. Where's Miles at anyway? Miles? That's the Priya. Normally Miles hears his music and comes. Oh, here he comes. Even Larry, your Uncle Ship.
Benny Goodman, ladies and gentlemen, the man with the torrid,
Hey, Rodney. Hey, Elaine.
torrid band who purveys assorted rhythms, all danceable, in the urban room of the
Hey,
Congress
Kathleen,
Hotel in
Ellen,
New York.
Karen.
And first of all, one of Irving Berlin's greatest hits.
Hey, Laurie.
Blue Skies.
Hey, Masha. Hey, look who's here. Making his contractual appearance very early on the night. Hey, Black Rose over on Twitch. Hey, Katie, Evelyn, Miguel, and Bridget. Hey, Susan. Whoa. Now that I wear the Halloween outfit, it kind of felt like October this morning. It was warm again by afternoon. Hey, Karen, Rodney. Hey, Ron, Evelyn. Hey, Gene. Anybody I might have missed? Hey, Kathleen, umpiring tonight. Okay. Hey, Karen, Julianne. Turn to let Miles have a look here. The picture may be blurred. I've been having some connection issues tonight, so sorry if that's an issue. Connection has kind of sucked. And I can no longer broadcast on Twitter without a premium account, then I just don't want one of those. Miles is just purring up a storm over here. Hey, Diane. Hey, Marie. Somebody have an incorrect title? It should be, everything seems to be okay. The great grave robbing, the great merchant caper. Near as I can figure. Hey, Maureen. Miles, why are you shedding hair? It's not the time of season for that. You've already done that shedding months ago. Hey, Laurie. Glad to have you. Even Martin. Okay, fixed itself. All right. Connection's been pretty slow on me today. I just reset the router. Gotta be up super early to get concert tickets again. Or to try to. Yeah, Octavio, too soon. We're grave robbing Lou Dobbs. That's not too soon. Miles. I'm gonna turn this computer around so you can see the look on this guy's face. Aw. Miles. Well, Susan, that's for the best. You won them. Well, that wasn't the case with tonight's story. But generally you want them before they get cold. You want them as soon as possible. Hey, Mona. Gene, it's entirely possible. An ear bandage that I believe was manufactured by MyPillow. Yeah, I need another camera angle just so you guys can watch Miles taking a bath over here. Hey, Megan. Glad to be here for you. Hey, Dad. Miles. All the while, wherefore your I'll ever care for all my heart. Hey, Beth. I must have watched that when it was on. Hey, Kathleen in Portland. Joanne, I'm thinking about going to the Oddities Expo. I'm hopping around too much by windows. Oh, where have I gone? There we go. Hey, Scott. Hey, Rodney. Hey, Grandma Bell. Hey, Octavio. Yep. I know Mandy Cripp's gonna be there.
Benny Goodman goes way back and gets a lot of rhythm out of Walk, Jenny, Walk. Benny Goodman and his orchestra.
Hey, Matthew. I know who the real star of this thing is. New Weird Al single will drop in about 3 hours. Word on the street is it's a polka medley, as he used to do on every album. I still can't hear Losing My Religion without shouting, hey, hey, that's me in the spot, hey, light, hey, etc. Miles, how are you shedding this much this week? You weren't like yesterday. Hey, Georgia. Just don't get any hair into my drink, okay? I am drinking an old-fashioned tonight, just a classic old-fashioned, but I froze some cherries so I could use them as ice cubes and not water it down so much as I would have realized. Evening, Geraldine. Hey, Georgia, Doreen. Not hello to the fruit flies. Hey, Savannah in Kalamazoo, Zoo. Kelly, Steve. Cool evening to you, Steve. Want to get a better angle for him, Miles? There you go. Matthew, Graceland does come up a little today. But we're talking about a New York case in tonight's. But it was a New York case that had an impact on Graceland Cemetery. Hey, Chris. Hey, Tracy, over on YouTube.
And they all loved it. but they all loved those passions when they played by Benny Goodman.
Hey, Janice.
And now another one just in the same vein, Rosetta.
We're going to let Benny Goodman do one more tune, and then we'll get started here properly. Miles. What did you just do? Ew. All right. Put it on the star. Eugene, very popular choice. But adding carpeting on top of shelves around here where the cats like to sit. I haven't carpeted this ledge yet. Don't know that I'll do that. Bob, you don't need to tell Miles not to fart. I'm sure you've got it covered. Now this tour's only been done once before, about a year ago. Hey, Doreen. Best of luck, Diane. $5 for the sexton. You know the link. Hey, Kim. Eden, Eleanor. Yeah, the whole gang. Cindy. Hey, Kathy in Oregon. Hey, Lisa, glad to have you. And all right, that is Benny Goodman wrapping up. No particular Miles Davis in evidence right there. That is Benny Goodman coming to you live from the Congress Hotel in downtown Chicago. Welcome along, everybody. I am Adam Seltzer from Mysterious Chicago Tours. Been a tour guide and historian here in Chicago for going on 20 years now. Author of such books as H.H. Holmes' The True History of the White City Devil, Mysterious Chicago, Murder Maps USA, Graceland Cemetery, Chicago Stories, Symbols, and Secrets. One thing I've never quite managed is to get a publisher interested in a book on grave robbing 101. Everything you need to know to launch your career as a 19th century body snatcher today. But we're going to cover a little of that. Of course, on Sunday night, we're doing our walking tour in Lincoln Park, Grave Robbing 101. So we will just recap, because today, this isn't Grave Robbing 101, this is more like 102 tonight. We're going to focus entirely on perhaps the most famous of all grave robbing stories from back in the old days. So here, I got a little, here's a little bit of a musical interlude to get us started. St. Mark's in the Bowery, New York City. All right, Grave Robbing 101, everybody. That's some music I've been working on. All right, so grave robbing 101. Grave robbing is a practice that dates back to at least ancient Egypt. The question, of course, is why would anybody rob a grave? And for much of the 19th century and the 18th century, the answer was to get cadavers for medical students to dissect. They came up with lots of interesting names for grave robbers in those days, such as Resurrection Man, Body Snatcher, Ghoul, Professional Subject Gatherer, or Purveyor of Meat specializing in Long Pig. We have various tips and tricks that we learn here. tools of the trade, such as a wooden shovel, which I actually saw on sale at a place called Scout on Clark Street. And various tips and tricks, like you don't have to dig out the entire coffin. Normally, all you have to do is dig a hole down to the head of the coffin, cut a hole in it, wrap a rope around things, or put a hook through the eyes, and drag the body up on a rope. The more you know. So, just to recap a little bit more, though, we're going to be going to New York for this one, particularly Lower Manhattan down here, around where Trinity Church is. There is also the old site of King's College. Now, the old graveyards here, St. Paul's, Trinity, they were the subjects of lots of grave robbing. In fact, in the 1780s, there was this letter that went around in 1788, $100 reward for whoever finds who robbed some bodies out of here. When they found out how many bodies were getting stolen, came the first riot in American history, the Doctors' Riot, the Doctors' Mob of 1788, when people stormed the medical school, tried to repurpose all of the cadavers and throw all of the doctors in jail. Now, right on the site where that stood, just a little bit north of that, or right across the street, so here we are in City Hall Park. This is just about exactly where that building was, where the doctors had to hide out. And just beyond that, this old building is the A.T. Stewart Marble Palace. At the time, it looked like this. This was a department store. This was really a place run by A.T. Stewart, which became a major inspiration for people like Potter Palmer, who started the store that eventually became Marshall Field's here in Chicago. This massive dry goods emporium that reimagined how people even thought about shopping. And eventually, though, A.T. Stewart was robbed from his grave and held for ransom. This became one of the biggest stories of the 1870s. So, this also, around the same time, there was an attempted theft of the body of Abraham Lincoln to hold it for ransom. There were stories about ghouls hanging out at P.T. Barnum's grave. Just fairly recently, Charlie Chaplin's body was stolen in 1977 from Lake Geneva. Some grave robbers buried it a mile away from the original site and asked for $600,000. They were caught very quickly and did short prison sentences. And of course, here in Chicago, in Graceland Cemetery, Pullman is said to be buried under about 10 feet of cement and steel to make sure that nobody can break in and steal the corpse. Now, I got a big problem with bugs in the house tonight. You'd think we were in a mausoleum here ourselves. So, it's generally said now that if Pullman was hidden away like this and under a kind of an underground fortress because his employees hated him so much they were afraid people would desecrate the body. Now that may be true, but it wasn't what anybody talked about at the time. When this first went in, all anybody was talking about was the theft of A.T. Stewart. A.T. Stewart, here's the guy himself. Let's double back here a little bit. So Alexander Turney Stewart started out as a merchandiser by selling Irish lace. He found out that he could buy the stuff cheap in Ireland, then sell it in New York at a 1,000% markup. So he worked his way up, started his own place, and it was known for very strict policies. Where one thing, he had one price for every customer. Nobody got to bargain with him. That was a pretty new idea at the time. He ordered his employees never to cheat anybody, not even if they could get away with it, not even if the customer kind of deserved it. He was also kind of known for being cheap, but he pioneered the idea of volume. He made very little profits on his stuff, but he made up for it by volume. How do you do it? How do we do it? How do we do it? Volume. Turn up the volume. Grew to have a fortune of about $40 million, which, as of the 1990s, when somebody adjusted it for total portion of the gross domestic product, would be kind of like having $46 billion in the 1990s. He's one of the top 10 richest Americans of all time, one of the top 3 of his time. Rockefeller would eventually have like $900 million, which is like 1/44 of the entire gross domestic product. Marshall Field would be worth about $40 billion at his height in 1990s money. Again, these are 1990s numbers. Now, A.T. Stewart did not pose for very many photos. He was not a vain person. This is about the only photograph of him that there is out there. Beyond this, there's really just a lot of drawings and portraits. He really just wasn't that flashy. At least, not in some ways. He did, of course, have a mansion on Fifth Avenue, right across from the Astors, who had about twice as much money as he did. The very elite social set of New York was known as the 400 in those days. It was said that they were called the 400 because that was how many people could fit in Mrs. Astor's ballroom. If you were in the top social stratosphere, you got invited to her balls. Otherwise, you weren't quite in the 400 yet. Now, Stewart's house was a little more modest than theirs. Until you got inside. This was the entrance hall with statues everywhere. I would be terrified that these things were going to come to life and take me over. Then there was the art gallery, which is just paintings plastered up absolutely everywhere. Now, right across the street, the Astor House was actually a lot more modest looking on the outside, even though they had twice the money he did. Now, this would have been located right on Fifth Avenue. This is what Fifth Avenue looked like at the time. It was more known as a residential street in those days. It's where all of the flashy rich people lived. I don't know, gold toilet probably wasn't his style. That's a little further up Fifth Avenue in a building that would be the flashiest in town if this were Omaha, and it were 1982. But it would have been, if you look over on the right behind the taxis, you can see the Duane Reade, the drugstore, right across the street from the Empire State Building. That is where Stewart's place would have been. Now, Stewart was also highly superstitious. When he moved uptown, he paid the apple woman who sold apples on his corners to move too, because he thought that she was good luck. Also was known for things like he would never eat at a table set for 13 people. It's, given his success, it's kind of an argument for maybe superstitions work. But he had some major clients too, like Mary Todd Lincoln wore an A.T. Stewart shawl to her husband's funeral, to Lincoln's funeral. A shawl which cost $2,500. You adjust that for inflation, that is at least a $50,000 shawl. Maybe I should start selling $50,000 shawls. But of course, they were in fact known for theirs. Neil Armstrong and Dry Goods were selling such things as shawls, 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 from the stock of A.T. Stewart and Co. But then he died. Died in 1876 of a bladder infection and peritonitis. So, his funeral was held at St. Mark's in the Bowery. Now, by this time, burials in the ground in Manhattan had been illegal for several decades. But there were still some loopholes. Like if you had an underground stone vault, burials could still be done in there. That's why they opened the Marble Cemetery and the New places that were nothing but underground stone vaults where coffins could be deposited. And that was also the case where they buried Stewart. Hang on, am I down? My internet's down, isn't it? We'll pause for a second. Still looks like it's back up again. Here we go again. All right. I'm going to pause for a second. I say I was down for a second there. Are we moving again? Something is going wrong here. Bum, bum, bum. Or maybe I can try a different microphone too. I'm turning up the volume a little bit too. I did get some text that I'm getting getting a lighter volume. All right, we're back. We're okay. All right, shawls. We're going to give it a second there. The audio might have improved a little bit because I just plugged in the other microphone. Should be a little bit louder, so sorry if I just got really super loud for you. In any case, Stewart died. His body was deposited in the vault. This is actually a very interesting drawing, like showing how they did that. It's one thing when I was working on the Trinity Church book, I couldn't really figure out how exactly they got coffins into these places. So, in his will, he granted about $1 million to Judge Henry Hilton. But he arranged to let Mrs. Stewart, Cornelia Stewart, keep that $1 million in exchange for control of the store, which she didn't want to run herself. So Hilton just gave her the $1 million for the store, plus the rest of whatever she inherited, and over the course of time, Judge Hilton would run A.T. Stewart's store absolutely into the ground. Have you been shopping at A.T. Stewart's lately? No, you have not. So he tried to move up a new one. In fact, he built a new store right up here in Chicago. A.T. Stewart had always been trying to veering away from Chicago. It said that he didn't want to compete with Marshall Field, but really Field was still relatively new. So it might just go back to him having been an inspiration for Potter Palmer, who he at least knew a little bit. Anyway, trying to open in Chicago and compete with Marshall Field is just one of many, many bad ideas had by Judge Hilton. In any case, though, we got to go back to the main subject of our story. Cornelia, for her part, was a financial genius, basically created the town of Garden City, New Jersey, and ended up doing just fine for herself. But let's check out St. Mark's of the Bowery Church. This is a Lower East Side church on Bowery at about 10th and 2nd in New York. The burials are all underground in vaults. What you would do here, this is the church. Let's take a look inside of this place. When you look inside, you just see kind of bricks going up into a kind of a raised, hilly area. And on the inside are just rows and rows of single little slabs like this. So, if you remove the stone and dig a little bit, what you'd get is like a staircase leading down to the entrance of a vault.